Hey, this is Francisca, and this is my mid-crisis life. So I just wanted to make a really quick video because I just had the craziest drive into work. Um, so the drive's like about an hour and a half, and a lot of it's motorway. And I have a car that has cruise control, but it also has like this adjustable cruise control, so you can set it to leave like one car length, which is actually like the length of a lorry, um, or two car lengths or three car lengths in front of you. And what it does is while you're driving, you can set it at the speed that you want to, as you would do with cruise control. But then if you start pulling up to a car that's in front of you, it slows down automatically. And it's the first time that I've used it. And it's because really, actually, my heel was starting to hurt from constantly having my foot on the accelerator or the brake or whatever, just like driving ailments, right? Anyway, this drive this drive was mental for me, absolutely fucking mental. So when I put cruise control on, immediately my body went into like, I can only describe it as like shock. And there was one point at which I just felt like I'm gonna die. Like I'm gonna die. And I nearly started crying, like my body was convulsing. Um, because of the amount of fear that it was in that moment in time. And it was just like, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're gonna die. And it was making me think a lot about how if we watch ourselves in certain situations when certain things happen, if we watch ourselves all the time, if we're always got that like version of ourselves that's like the observer, we can learn a lot. And I feel like instances and incidences and circumstances and our like body's reaction to things, our mind's reactions to things is like it's like a metaphor for I guess those like deeper fundamental fears or beliefs that we have, right? And when I was in my car feeling like I'm gonna die, it made me think about the fact that clearly, because there are people that use cruise control all the time and they don't fucking care. Like they're just happily like cruising down the street, having trust in their car, having trust in the mechanisms that there are around them, right, to keep them safe. And it made me realize that what this is symptomatic of is this much, much deeper feeling that I have that if I am not in control, invariably I will die. That there is nothing out there that is looking after me and that I have to have control at all times. Because if I leave it to anyone but myself, the likelihood is that something bad is going to happen, and that induces such a massive level of fear in me. And I think the thing that's interesting is that my whole body is in like a hyper aroused state right now. Like my breathing is rapid and my body feels like electrified actually with fear. And it just felt like I was on like a roller coaster ride where I had no control over what was going on and my adrenaline was just pumping out through my body. And it reminded me of something that I know to be true. There's a lot of research on it. And that's when you're in a fear state, adrenaline and cortisol start pumping through your body. And adrenaline and cortisol, as like a chemical compound, when it's being pumped out of your brain, actually it's corrosive to the brain. Like it's actually corrosive to the physical matter that is in your brain. And it's like when you're in that state, when you're in that state of fight or flight or freeze or fawn, which is basically what it was, and my body was telling me, run, run, this is not fucking safe. When you're in that state, when your sympathetic nervous system has been activated, it's because you're perceiving hazards, right, around you. So your adrenaline kicks in so that you can deal with that hazard, so that you can run really fast away from something if you need to, or you can stand and fight, or you can find somewhere to hide. But the problem is that because A, cortisol and adrenaline are corrosive to the brain, and because B, when you're in that sympathetic nervous system state, your body shuts down all of the extremities that it doesn't need at that moment in time to focus all of its attention on this threat that it feels like it needs to deal with. Actually, what happens is that your brain can't really think in the way that it would do when you're in that R&R state, because all of its attention is going to your core organs, making sure that your body is your heart is pumping, making sure that your vital organs, just the vital organs, are working. So you can't think with any kind of clarity. You've got no ability to be creative. You've got no ability to strategize in the long term about what might be best for you. You're just dealing with that threat right now. And it just made me think about, if I have a fundamental belief that if I'm not in control, that I will die, and this fear is inherent in my body, which is what this drive into work showed me this morning. And if that means that I can't then think and I can't be creative, it's really difficult if that's like a constant, pervasive, persistent, pathological, perennial thought process, and just pattern of thought that I have, pattern of belief that I have. Then it's really difficult, if that's constantly what I go back to find a way out of these threats that I'm perceiving everywhere. And it also makes me think about how, if I have like those fundamental core beliefs that have been created and developed in childhood about what's safe and what's not safe, and it's not safe to allow anybody else or to never have control. If that's my fundamental thought process, and then on top of that, that's triggering high levels of fear and cortisol and adrenaline, and then that's stopping me from being creative in that moment in time. But then on top of that, I have these learned beliefs that actually everything is happening for me, that God is good, that there is a greater and higher power out there that is going to protect me, that is going to lead me to my highest good, and that in order to manifest that, there has to be a level of faith and there has to be a level of belief that these things are true. It's obviously creating a massive amount of cognitive dissonance. These two opposing beliefs are fighting against one another for dominance in my mind. And the problem is that when you have a fundamental belief, something that was developed in your formative years, before you really had any context, before you had any capacity to think for yourself, these things were just kind of happening to you, and you are in that constant feeling of fight or flight because you need to survive, and you don't have any faculties by which to do that beyond relying on the people that there are around you because you're so young. If that is my fundamental thought process, how do I then let go of that and allow the beliefs that I have culminated over the course of my life that I do believe to be true? How do I let them become the most dominant, the most predominant thoughts in my mind? And it's really difficult because instinctually I will always go back to it's not safe. It's not safe. Nothing is safe unless I am in control. And it's hard then to have that level of optimism and have a frequency that raises above these kind of carnal fears in order to propel myself into something that is of a higher nature. So I don't really have an answer for that right now. But I think that it's really helpful to notice these things and to see the inner workings of your own mind and your own body and how you instinctively respond to things. And they can be shown in the most crazy and unrelated ways, like using cruise control in your car. Because I think that allows you the space to then start thinking about how do I reconcile these things. Yeah, okay, I think that's it. So something I'm grateful for is I'm just really grateful that I didn't die. I'm really grateful that I'm here safely. And also, I'm really grateful that even though it was really scary, like crazy scary for me to do that, I did it anyway. And that invoked in me some greater understanding of how I process, how I manage things, what my patterned thoughts are, um, and how my body responds in those moments, um, so that I can begin to start exploring that a little bit more. So, yeah, okay, I'm gonna go to work. That's all.